Across multiple regions of the world, the sound of war has changed. It is no longer always announced by the roar of jets or the thunder of artillery. Increasingly, the most consequential movements happen quietly, inside command centers, intelligence networks, and diplomatic corridors where the next phase of global competition is being carefully calculated. What we are witnessing now is not a single war, but a strategic shift unfolding across several interconnected fronts. In the Middle East, Eastern Europe, and the broader global power structure, tensions involving Iran, Israel, Russia, Ukraine, and the United States are evolving in ways that suggest the world is entering a more complex and potentially dangerous strategic era. The battlefield is expanding beyond physical territory into technology, alliances, energy corridors, and influence over entire regions. Nowhere is this more visible than in the ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine. What began as a full-scale invasion in 2022 has gradually transformed into a grinding war of attrition where both sides are recalibrating their strategies. Russia, having absorbed the shock of international sanctions and battlefield setbacks, has shifted toward long-term endurance. Its military strategy increasingly relies on fortified defensive lines, expanded drone production, and deeper military cooperation with partners willing to bypass Western restrictions. Ukraine, meanwhile, continues to rely heavily on Western intelligence, weapons systems, and financial support. But the war has also exposed a deeper geopolitical reality. The conflict is no longer purely about Ukrainian territory. It has become a test of how far the Western alliance is willing to go to counter Russia's long-term ambitions. Every shipment of weapons, every sanction package, and every diplomatic meeting between NATO states sends signals not only to Moscow, but to capitals across the globe that are carefully studying how power is shifting in the international system. At the same time, attention in the Middle East is quietly intensifying around the shadow conflict between Iran and Israel. For years, their confrontation has largely remained indirect, fought through cyber operations, intelligence activity, and regional proxy forces. But recent developments suggest that both sides are preparing for a future where deterrence must be stronger, faster, and more visible. Iran has continued expanding its missile capabilities and regional alliances, building networks that extend through Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, and beyond. Israel, on the other hand, has focused on strengthening its air defense systems, intelligence, reach, and rapid strike capabilities. The strategic objective for Israel remains clear: prevent Iran from reaching a point where it could fundamentally alter the military balance of the region. Yet every covert strike, every intercepted shipment, and every cyber intrusion raises the risk of miscalculation. The challenge for both sides is maintaining pressure without triggering a direct war that could ignite the entire region. Hovering above these regional tensions is the United States, whose strategic posture now stretches across multiple theaters simultaneously. Washington remains the central pillar of Western support for Ukraine, while also maintaining security commitments in the Middle East and managing its broader competition with major global powers. This balancing act is becoming increasingly complicated. Resources, political attention, and military readiness must be distributed across several crises that are unfolding at the same time. American planners understand that the world is entering a period where conflicts may not erupt one at a time, but could overlap in unpredictable ways. That possibility has forced a quiet reassessment of military logistics, alliance coordination, and rapid response capabilities. For Russia, this global complexity offers strategic opportunity. Moscow understands that Western unity can be strained when multiple crises compete for attention. By sustaining pressure in Ukraine while deepening relationships with states that challenge Western influence, Russia is attempting to reshape the geopolitical chessboard into a multipolar environment where no single power dominates the global order. Iran also sees opportunity within this shifting landscape. As global tensions rise, Tehran positions itself as a regional power capable of influencing events far beyond its borders. Its strategy relies not only on military capability, but also on patience, gradually expanding influence while avoiding direct confrontation with stronger adversaries. Israel, however, views this expanding influence as an existential concern. For Israeli strategists, time is not neutral. The longer Iran strengthens its regional networks and technological capabilities, the more complicated Israel's security calculations become. This dynamic creates a quiet race beneath the surface of diplomacy, a race defined by intelligence gathering, technological innovation, and strategic positioning. Meanwhile, Ukraine remains the visible front line of a broader geopolitical contest. The outcome of the war will shape global perceptions of power, resilience, and alliance reliability. If Ukraine maintains its ability to resist Russian pressure with Western backing, it reinforces the credibility of the Western alliance system. If Russia manages to consolidate gains or force a prolonged stalemate, it signals that large-scale military force can still reshape borders despite international opposition. Either outcome will influence strategic thinking in capitals far beyond Europe. The world is therefore entering a phase where the connections between distant conflicts are becoming clearer. The decisions made in Moscow affect calculations in Tehran. Developments in the Middle East influence political debates in Washington, and every shift on the Ukrainian battlefield echoes through global energy markets, defense budgets, and diplomatic alliances. This is what defines the current strategic shift. It is not one war expanding across the globe, but multiple strategic competitions gradually overlapping. Each actor is testing the limits of its power, while carefully watching how others respond. In this environment, the most important battles may not always be fought with tanks or missiles, but with endurance, alliances, and the ability to shape the future balance of power. History shows that moments like this rarely announce themselves clearly. They unfold slowly through subtle movements and quiet decisions that only reveal their full significance years later. Today's tensions between Iran and Israel, Russia and Ukraine, and the United States' global commitments are not isolated crises. They are signals of a world adjusting to a new strategic reality where power is more contested, alliances are more critical, and the margin for miscalculation is dangerously thin. And as these rivalries continue to evolve across continents and conflict zones, one truth becomes increasingly clear. The next chapter of global stability may not be decided by a single decisive battle, but by how nations navigate the fragile line between deterrence and escalation in a world where every move now echoes far beyond the battlefield.